Am I the asshole for mailing 214 printed text messages to my family right before a party where my mom was planning to tell everyone I had abandoned them?
Welcome to PopcornRest This Story. Today's story is about a daughter who quietly walked away from her family after years of being the one holding everything together, until a single binder changed everything in a way no one saw coming. Let's get started.
I've been in Portland for 19 months. I kept my old phone number when I moved. Not as a test, exactly. More like I wanted to leave a door open, to see if anyone would walk through it. In 19 months, my mom called me 0 times. My sister called me 0 times. Not on my birthday. Not at Christmas. Not on any of the occasions where people who think of you call. I found out my family had noticed I was gone when my sister showed up at my old apartment looking for someone to watch her kids on a Saturday. The new tenant told her I had moved. She called my mom. My mom called me 47 times in a row and left voicemails. I listened to all 47. None of them asked if I was okay. None of them asked where I was or whether something had happened to me. They were angry. They said I was selfish. They said I had put the family in an impossible position. They said a lot of things about what my leaving had done to them. I sat in my apartment in Portland and made coffee and listened to all 47 and thought, yes, this is exactly what I expected. Some background that my dad died when I was 14. My mom was devastated, genuinely, completely. I don't say what happened next to minimize what she lost, because she lost something real. But what happened next was that someone had to run the household, and that person became me. I cooked. I cleaned. I managed the grocery runs and the bills that needed to be paid and the appointments that needed to be kept. My younger sister, Kara, was 11 and in no position to help. My mom was grieving and in no position to help. I was 14, and I did what needed to be done because it needed doing, and I was there that nobody asked me to. Nobody thanked me for it. It just became the shape of my life, and by the time I was 30, when I was still the shape of my life. I drove my mom to her doctors. I picked up Kara's kids from school when she and her husband Drew had conflicts. I organized Thanksgiving. I organized Christmas. I organized birthdays and handled the things that needed handling. On my 31st birthday, I sat at my kitchen table, waiting to see if anyone would call us. My mom called at 4 p.m. She asked if I could pick up a prescription, because the pharmacy was near my office and it would save her a trip. I said yes. I went and got the prescription. I dropped it off. I drove home. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. 5 months before I moved, I ran an experiment. I wanted to know what the relationship actually was, stripped of my function in it. I started sending messages. Not just responses to requests, actual messages. Checking in, asking how things were going, suggesting we get coffee, asking about my mom's health, Kara's kids, Drew's job. Regular, ordinary, the kind of messages people send when they are thinking of someone. Over 5 months, I sent 214 messages. I received 11 responses every. One of the 11 responses was a request for something. I printed all of it. 214 messages and 11 responses organized by date, with the requests highlighted in yellow. I put it in a binder. I moved on a Tuesday in November. I packed my car over 2 days, gave my landlord notice, and drove to 1,100 miles from Columbus to Portland over 4 days. I told nobody I was going. I kept my phone number. I left the door open. Nobody walked through it for 19 months. Then the 47 voicemails. Then my mom, once she established that I was alive and in Portland, began telling people that I had abandoned the family. I know this because a cousin I'm close with texted me to ask what was going on and mentioned that my mom had been describing me as someone who had walked out on the people who needed her. I also found out that my mom was planning a birthday party for one of Kara's kids, a large one, that she had invited the neighbors, the family pastor, Kara's in-laws, that she intended to use the occasion to explain to the assembled group why I was absent and what kind of person that made me. So I sent the binder. I mailed it to my mom's address with a note that said, "For the party, am I the asshole? The party is this Saturday. The binder should arrive Thursday or Friday. I am sitting in Portland, and I am asking honestly whether what I did was wrong." I had 214 opportunities to be reached, and 11 of them resulted in someone wanting something from them. My mom had 47 opportunities to ask if I was safe and used none of them. She had 19 months to call and didn't. But I'm also aware that mailing a binder of printed messages to arrive before a party is not a neutral act. I knew what it would do. I did it anyway, so am I the asshole? Too long. Didn't read. Moved 1,100 miles without telling my family. Kept my old number. Nobody called for 19 months. Family found out when my sister came to my old apartment for babysitting. Mom left 47 angry voicemails asking nothing about whether I was okay. Before I moved, I sent 214 messages over 5 months and received 11 responses, all requests. I printed them all into a binder. When I found out my mom was planning to publicly call me a person who abandoned the family at a party this weekend, I mailed the binder to arrive before the party. Am I the asshole? Edit. The tracking says it delivered this afternoon. My phone has been quiet. Update coming's out edit too. My sister's husband just texted me. I'll write the full update when I know more.
This story hits hard because it doesn't feel like something that's just suddenly happened. It was a slow burn foaming over years in the shadows, and it's only became clear once he finally got some distance from it. It's wild how irrevocably quiet everything was, right up until the moment it is loaded. No calls, no rechecking, just absence that went on long enough to become normal, and then 47 voicemail that are full of anger instead of concern. The part about the messages is even harder to ignore. 200 thought attempts to connect, but only being met with reply when something was needed. That paints a really clear picture without needing any extra explanations. It doesn't look like a misunderstanding. It looks like a role someone got stuck in without ever agreeing to it. But the bit that changes the tone completely, it stopped being passive, distant, and turned into something intentional, almost confrontational. It's hard to say whether this is about her own validations or by stripping away the family dino by force. But either way, the air feels heavy. We reach the exact moment where whatever happened next will honor the narrative permanently. Let's go to Update 1.
Update 1. For days Lattice binder was open during the party. My mom had been talking for a few minutes. A guest had asked where I was. I know this because my cousin was there and texted me a rough timeline afterward. My mom had begun her explanation. Someone opened the box. I don't know who. Maybe someone curious about what had arrived. Maybe someone who had seen my mom's expression where she recognized my handwriting on the label. The binder has tabs. Each month is tabbed separately. Each message is there with the date and time, and the responses, all 11 of them, are highlighted in yellow. It is very easy to read and understand. The room read it. My cousin said it went quiet in the way that rooms go quiet when everyone is processing the same thing at the same time. She said the pastor flipped through several pages and didn't say anything. She said Kara's mother-in-law read for a while and then quietly got her coat. The party ended before the birthday cake was cut. My sister and my mom, from what I understand, did not have a good evening. My cousin said they argued in the kitchen for a long time, and that at some point the argument became about things that had nothing to do with me, which is often how these things go when the real subject finally has to be addressed. Drew texted me that night. He said he had gone through the binder after everyone left. He said he was in there. There were several messages I had sent him directly that had gone unanswered. He said he didn't have a good explanation for it, and he wasn't going to try to offer one. He said he was sorry that it was a short message. It was the most useful apology I have received from anyone in my family in a long time. Which is to say it contained no explanation of why the behavior had been acceptable or request for me to understand. In the context, it just said, I did this thing. I'm sorry. I didn't respond that night. I read it a few times and put my phone down and went to sleep, yet my mom texted 2 days later. Her message was longer. She wrote about how difficult things had been since my dad died, about carrying the family alone, about not realizing how much of that weight I had been carrying, too. Some of it was an apology. Some of it was still explaining herself. I read it. I didn't respond yet. I'm not ready. But I read it that my sister Kara has not reached out.
Honestly, the wild part of this update is how fast this hidden family drama completely spills over. The battle wasn't just had this over. A whole room of people were sasses contents in real time. And that's collective silence that's followed. Man, that says way more than any explosive argument ever could. It feels like this story stopped being about one person being missing or suddenly became about everyone realizing they've been looking at a situation from completely different assumptions. The reactions are also starting to slip in a really telling way. Truth's message is simple, almost truth train, and that's make it plan harder than any long explanation. Meanwhile, the mom response still feels caught between accountability and self-defense. Let's see hasn't fully decided what version of the story she's willing to accept yet. And Kara's silence does want it loud in its own way. At this point, it only feels like the aftermath of the party is still unfolding behind closed doors. The real questions now isn't what was revealed. It's who actually going to change after seeing it. So let's move to the episode, see what's happening.
Update 2, for now 3 months later. I want to close this out. About 6 weeks after the party, Kara called me. She didn't call to ask for anything. She called because she had been managing everything without me for the first time and she was exhausted and she said, I didn't know. I asked what she didn't know. She said she didn't know what it felt like to be the person who held everything together. She had never had to find out before. She said she had spent 6 weeks doing what I had done for 17 years, and she was finally understanding what it had cost me, that it was not a perfect apology. It was not a neat resolution, but it was something true, said without being asked for, and I think that matters as we have talked 3 times since then. The calls are short and careful, and getting slightly less short, I responded to Drew's text about 6 weeks after he sent it. I said thank you for the message, and that I appreciated that it didn't ask anything of me. He said, of course. That was the end of the exchange. I think that's the right place to leave it for now. I responded to my mom's message recently. I told her I had read what she wrote. I told her I needed some time before I knew what I wanted the relationship to look like. I told her that some time didn't mean never, but it also didn't mean soon. She said she understood. I don't know if she does, but she said it without arguing. I got promoted at work last month. The job is good and the people I work with are good. And when I go home at the end of the day, I go home to a life that is mine. I have friends here who call me to ask how I am. Not because they need something, just because they thought of me. I had not known, before Portland, that this was something that could happen on a regular basis without it being remarkable. It is remarkable to me. I notice it every time. I have been thinking about the binder. 214 messages, 11 responses. I know people have different opinions about whether sending it was the right call. Some people told me in the comments that it was calculated. Some people said it was the only language my family would ever understand. I think both of those things can be true at the same time. What I know is this. For 17 years I held things together and was invisible. The binder made the invisible visible. I put something that had been real for a long time into a form that could not be looked away from. I don't regret it. What I do regret is the 17 years before it. The 14-year-old who started cooking because someone had to and never stopped. The birthday when I picked up the prescription and didn't say anything. The 214 messages I sent hoping someone would respond differently. I spent a long time being a function for other people. A service. A thing that handled things. I was never just a person to them that in Portland I am just a person. It turns out that's enough. It turns out that's everything, not the asshole. But the more important thing I needed to say to myself was not that I wasn't the asshole. It was that I was allowed to leave. That leaving was not abandonment. That the person who keeps the lights on and never turns them on for herself is not obligated to stay in the dark forever. I turned the lights on. They're still on that long. Didn't read. Kara called 6 weeks after the party. Said she finally understood what she hadn't known. Responded to Drew's text. He didn't ask for anything. I appreciated that. Responded to Mom's message. Told her I needed time. She didn't argue. Got promoted. Friends here call to check in, not to ask for things. I notice every time because it still feels new. The binder made the invisible visible. I don't regret it. I regret the 17 years before it. Portland is good. The lights are on.
Honestly, this whole story leaves you with that uncomfortable mix of silence and realizations, like you don't even know what to say for a second after reading. It started off feeling almost distant, but the more it unfolds, the more it kind of sings in a personal way. Like, wait, how long would it take just carrying everything along? The by the part is where it's really hit different. Not because it's dramatic, but because it feels so inevitable by that point. You can almost imagine there's awkward quiet in the room, people flipping pages, suddenly realizing this wasn't an exaggeration or a misunderstanding. It would just document its reality. And that kind of truth doesn't really let anyone stay comfortable. What stick with you in the end isn't even the conflict, is the emotional shift. There's something bittersweet about Carrie finally understanding it's only after leaving it's herself. It's like a delayed empathy that arrives too late to fix the past, but still change the future a little. And maybe that's why the ending feels awfully calming and sad at the same time. You happy, you okay now, but it's also a bit stunned thinking about how long it took for being a vision, not a function, to even become a possibility. So let me know what you guys think about this story, because I genuinely want to hear from you guys. And if you love this story, please like and subscribe to Popcorn Remember This Story. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!